Revealed, 15 haunted personal accounts from Reddit that will terrify you to the bone. Claire sat in her cluttered living room, exhausted. After another long shift at the diner, the mundane noise of suburban life felt eerie. Her 10-year-old son Danny was supposed to be in bed, but instead, she found him cross-legged on the floor, chatting away with nothing. "What is going on?" she asked, unease prickling her skin. His laughter echoed eerily, sending a shiver up her spine. The room felt colder, shadows creeping along the walls. "Just my friend," Danny replied, eyes wide and gleaming with exhilaration. Claire's heart raced. Who was his friend? As the days dragged on, Claire's sense of dread deepened. Danny seemed different. One day, she caught him scribbling in his notebook while hiding it behind his back. The drawings were grotesque, twisted smiles and sharp teeth, lurking in corners, things that didn't belong in a child's art. When Claire confronted him, he giggled as if an invisible hand was tickling him. "Just stickers, Mom," he insisted, but the reddish marks on his arms told a different story. There was no denying the knots of apprehension tightening in her stomach that it gnawed at her. The peaceful street, filled with neighborly banter, suddenly felt suffocating. Jack and Emily 2 doors down. Gone. No sign, no explanation. And then, there was Mr. Thompson, the principal, charming, reliable. Had he always been lurking around homes like theirs? Claire scoured Reddit for stories about hauntings, and each new post constricted her throat. Experiences echoed her strange reality. People had vanished, obliterated by shadows whispering their names. Chilled, she noticed a pattern within her own neighborhood. Were they next? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fatigued and terrified, Claire unearthed an unsettling thread about ancestral secrets tied to homes, and her heart thundered with recognition as her eyes darted to Danny's drawings. They were not childish doodles, they whispered horrors too vivid to ignore, revealing hidden truths intertwined in their walls, a legacy of darkness that had been waiting. The air thickened, shadows stretching menacingly across the floor, clawing, lurking, waiting for the chance to ensnare them. The night grew heavier as Claire felt the creeping grip of paranoia. Echoes of laughter from neighboring houses morphed into muffled murmurs. She stood at her window watching the shadows dance, a symphony of unearthly whispers curling around her. As she braced herself, a cold chill surged through her. She had to confront the facade of cheerful neighbors hiding behind grins and waves. But as she reached for the door, a voice, thin and chillingly sweet, wafted into her ear, "Don't go out there, Mom. They're waiting for you." Suddenly, the reassuring warmth of home felt like a prison, and Claire's pulse quickened. Danny clutched his notebook close, his eyes flaring with a mix of fear and the dark joy of an unseen connection. What had he unleashed? How much danger did they truly face? The world beyond felt predator-like, and in that moment, Claire understood, she was no longer in control, and she had to act fast before it was too late. Claire's breath came in short gasps as she stepped back from the door, the voice still echoing in her mind. Danny's innocent laughter mixed with an unsettling undertone, twisted everything she thought she knew about her son. With a flutter in her chest, she focused on her boy, crouching before him with urgency. "Danny, what do you mean? Who is your friend?" His wide eyes danced with delight, yet they held something darker, an abyss, perhaps. "She's nice. She plays games with me, Mom. Look." He held up his notebook, and Claire's stomach sank. The drawings seemed alive, crawling and shifting behind the lines. No longer mere sketches, they morphed into disturbed faces, menacing silhouettes, stretching mouthfuls of jagged teeth. "Enough," Claire snapped, snatching the notebook from his hands. Her fingers shuddered against its cover, the chill so intense it felt as if it were drawing her in. "You need to stop drawing this nonsense." "Mommy, don't." Danny whined, pushing closer to her. "If you throw it away, she'll get mad." His voice trailed off, the tremor spiking fear deep within Claire. "Who will?" Her voice faltered, knowing the answer was something she wasn't ready to hear. A stern resolve filled her. "You tell me now. I'm your mother and I need to protect you." A fleeting thought crossed her mind. Were there real ghosts out there? Would they take her boy? As if stirred by a dark wind, the lights flickered, casting erratic shadows that seemed to breathe alongside her. Outside, the moon fractured behind clouds, its light struggling against the rising dread. Then, suddenly, a knocking echoed from the front door, slow, deliberate, like a heartbeat. Claire felt her skin crawl. "Stay here," she ordered, inching toward the door. Each step felt heavier, pulling at her resolve, but curiosity clawed at her thoughts. Who was out there? An empty neighborhood, save for their house, seemed to close in around her. She peered through the peephole, expecting to find nothing. But what she saw froze her blood. The entire street lay shrouded in shadow, figures indistinct yet unmistakable. Faces blurred and wavering, a collection of familiar neighbors, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly sheen. Mr. Thompson stood at the forefront, mouth moving but no words reached her ears. Behind him, Jack and Emily, the couple she'd waved at just last week, smiled in a way that felt wrong. They were too still, too expectant. Panic rushed through her veins as she withdrew from the door, but now, Danny was at her side, his small hand gripping hers tightly. "Mom!" he squeaked. "They want to play." The room spun, the air thickening as the resolve she clung to began to crumble. Claire could feel the shadows creeping in, tendrils curling around her mind, whispering secrets she didn't want to know. "And what if I don't want to play?" Her voice trembled. She felt the pressure of too many eyes, waiting, judging. They just stood outside, like sentinels guarding a dark abyss. "They'll take us," Danny said, his face pale. "If we don't play." The walls seemed to close in, claustrophobic insanity tightening its grip. Claire felt the need to scream, to fight back against the dark pull, but an electricity ran through her veins, numbing her senses. "They will not take you. We will get out of here," she shouted, yet doubts crept in, and then, it hit her, the terrible revelation revealed through the fog of fear. It wasn't just Danny. The whole neighborhood was caught in this malignant web. She had to act, had to confront this horror head-on. Just then, the door rattled violently, and the voices outside inched closer, chanting something she couldn't quite catch. The heartbeat of the house thudded in rhythm with her racing pulse, and she swore she could feel the walls tremble with anticipation. What hope could there be in a world hell-bent on consuming them? "Danny!" she called, heart racing. "We need to find out what they're hiding." Claire turned to face the dark shadows pooling around her, the weight of terror heavy on her shoulders. But as she stood, determination rooted in her heart, she realized she was far from ready. The doors shuddered as if they were amplifying the fear feeding their hunger. Her thoughts spiraled. Would they have the strength to escape, or was the darkness already too strong? A harsh voice rose from the chaos outside, cutting through the whispers, calling her name. "Claire! It's time to play." And in that moment, the certainty of survival slipped further away. Would she dare confront what lay beyond the door, or would it swallow them whole? As the echoes of laughter turned menacing, she faced a dreadful decision. The true nature of her grasp on sanity began to unravel. What if innocence was their greatest vulnerability? The door began to shudder again, this time with a force that rattled the very foundation of the house. Claire stumbled back, pulling Danny close, their bodies pressed against one another as if their combined warmth could ward off the encroaching dread. The air felt electric, alive with tension. She could hear the whispers now, clearer than before, distinct words wrapping around her mind like a vice. "Let us in, let's play." A deeper, growling laughter reverberated alongside the chants, sending chills skittering down her spine. Claire squeezed Danny's hand, glancing down to reassure herself of his presence, the innocent child caught in a game far beyond his understanding. "Danny," she whispered, forcing herself to focus on her son's face. "We have to go to the back door. Now." But Danny's gaze was drawn toward the tumult outside, his expression a mixture of fascination and terror. "Mom, they just want to play. They're my friends." His wide eyes glimmered with something deeply unsettling. "No." Claire's voice pierced the air, sharp and frayed with fear. "They are not your friends. They're—" She hesitated, unable to utter the horrifying possibilities swirling in her mind. A sudden thud against the door brought her out of her thoughts. The cold wood splintered slightly, and Claire gasped, feeling the house's architecture groan under the pressure of whatever waited outside. Her heart raced. They were no longer just whispers but a hungry tide of something malicious. "Mommy!" Danny cried, pulling away slightly, his childish innocence clashing with the oppressive aura of dread. "I want to see them. Stay away from the door." Claire yelled, panic surging as she stepped in front of her son protectively. "They'll hurt you." The energy shifted, and with it came a sudden laughter, chilling and hollow, echoing through the walls and haunting her ears. She could taste the metallic tinge of fear pooling in her mouth. Claire moved swiftly to the hallway, Danny in tow, her mind racing through countless scenarios, each darker than the last. "Mom!" Danny urged, his small face scrunched in confusion. "What if we just let them in? They want to play a fun game." A cold sweat broke across Claire's brow. The thought of just opening the door seemed absurd and paradoxically irrational, yet part of her feared what might happen if they didn't. The pressure from the door intensified, like a battering ram breaking through her resolve. "No!" Claire shouted, desperation snapping her voice. "They don't want to play, Danny. Not with us. We have to find a way out." As they hurried deeper into the house, the shadows seemed to stretch, curling around them like fingers, pulling at her legs, her sanity. The sounds from outside melded into a single throbbing pulse. A cacophony of laughter, demanding and taunting, spilled through the cracks of the walls. Danny whimpered, "What game can we play? I want to join them." The words sliced through Claire's heart. She could see the innocent desire in his eyes, but it felt like a trap. "No, Danny. It's not a game." Then, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness for a heartbeat. Claire could hear Danny's soft breaths, see the nervous glint in his eyes as the shadows danced around them, tightening their grip. In that terrifying moment, everything shifted. A loud crash echoed from the front door, and Claire instinctively clasped her hands over Danny's ears. The sound was unmistakably violent, a promise of chaos ready to erupt. "We need to find something, anything that can protect us," she declared with newfound urgency, searching her surroundings. Panic-fueled adrenaline surged within her as she spotted the kitchen knives gleaming ominously against the dull kitchen light. Could she really stand against whatever had taken root in their lives? Suddenly, the door burst open, wood splintering under the force as a dark figure flung itself inside the house, grinning with unhinged delight. Laughter erupted, unsettling and wild, as shadows poured in from all corners, a tidal wave of darkness descending. The moment hung heavy in the air, suspended between horror and a desperate need to fight back. Time slowed, heartbeats quickening in mutual fear. Claire's mind raced. She felt like a wolf cornered, heart pounding, eyes darting from shadow to shadow. Would she find the strength to confront this evil, or would it consume them both? "Danny!" she whispered fiercely, "get ready to run." But as she turned, a chill brushed down her spine, and she realized, the laughter wasn't just coming from outside, it was surrounding them. In that moment, Claire understood the truth as realization whipped through her like a winter wind. There was nowhere to run. Far from being mere onlookers, they were already part of the game and the rules. Well, they were still to be revealed. Claire's heart pounded in her chest, racing like a wild animal. The shadows, now swirling and writhing with unnerving energy, formed shapes that danced just outside the reach of the dim light. Her instincts screamed to flee, but the presence was suffocating, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. The laughter echoed louder, mingling with her frantic breaths, becoming a monstrous symphony of insanity. "Danny!" she urged, her voice trembling. "We have to move." But some invisible force held Danny's feet to the floor. His eyes glinted with naive wonder, the lingering innocence sparking a deep sense of fear in Claire. "Mom, look at them!" he cried out, pointing at the figures emerging from the shadows. "They're really cool. I want to play." "No!" Claire shouted, keeping her eyes trained on the dark forms sliding forward. There were more than before, limbs stretching unnaturally, grinning faces contorted into grotesque smiles that bore sharp teeth. "Mommy, please!" Danny begged, tears glistening in his eyes. "They just want to have fun." Before she could react, one of the darker figures lunged forward, its face merging into a monstrous form, the laughter twisting into something cruel and sinister. Claire gripped a knife tightly, its cool metal a small comfort in the chaos. She felt the adrenaline surge, pushing her instincts to fight instead of hide. "Danny, I need you to trust me," Claire said, her voice firm despite the quaking beneath her skin. "We need to get out of here, to the back door. It's our only chance." But Danny was transfixed, staring at the figures, his spirit seemingly drawn in by their beckoning fingers. More laughter erupted, but this time from behind Claire, echoing inside the house, each sound an aggressive ripple of terror. "Join us, Claire, join us," Danny, the voices taunted, resonating with a chilling familiarity. Were they mocking her? Did they know her fear? With a surge of determination, Claire moved closer to Danny, her heart hammering in time with his thundering breaths. She wrapped her arms around him, pulling him close. "We have to run now," she insisted, glancing back at the creeping shadows that coiled like smoke. "Mom, they're just like me," he protested, still gazing longingly at the dark figures. "No. They aren't like you," she shouted, the fear in her voice rising like steam, threatening to boil over. In that moment, the shadows surged closer, seeming to sense her defiance. "Fine." Her voice dropped to a fierce hiss. "If you want to hurry, then I'll make you." Claire took off down the hallway, her grip on Danny's hand firm and unyielding. He stumbled slightly, but with a strength born of a mother's fear, she pulled him along. They rounded a corner, the shadows twisting behind them, pursuing like predators closing in on their prey, laughter breaking in jarring harmony. They dashed into the kitchen, where the last rays of light leaked through the window, a frail hope against the encroaching darkness. Claire reached for the back door, heart pounding as she yanked the handle. It was locked. Frantic, she rattled it, pulling and pushing, but the door refused to yield. Panic surged as she glanced back at the gathering shadows, feeling the suffocating weight of despair creeping over her. "Danny, help me." Now more than ever, she felt that just beyond her reach was freedom. Behind her, the figures edged closer, growing more defined, no longer just shadows but creatures woven from nightmares, eyes glinting darkly like chips of ice. "Together, Mom. Let us push it," Danny shouted, a child's naive courage shining in the face of terror. "Okay." Claire nodded, her mind racing as they aligned their bodies before the door. A sudden surge of noise erupted behind them, laughter escalating to a shriek. 3, 2, 1. Their combined weight slammed against the door, and as if in response to their insistence, it shattered open, but instead of the night outside, an abyss of swirling shadows loomed, deep and dark as pitch. A gust of cold air enveloped them, a breath from the netherworld, pulling Claire and Danny into the chaos as they fell. The moment shocked through Claire as she fought against the pull, gasping for breath. "Mom!" Danny screamed, terror rising in his voice. Then they were gone. The darkness swallowed them whole. As the laughter echoed in the void, Claire felt an icy hand grasp her ankle, pulling her deeper into the night. The game wasn't over yet, what had they unleashed? The game was just beginning. Claire's eyes flew open, heart racing as the icy grip released her ankle. The darkness enveloped them, a tangible cloak of dread that threatened to squeeze the air from her lungs. "Danny?" she called, her voice barely a whisper, swallowed by the void. The cold seeped into her bones, gnawing at her resolve. She steadied herself, straining to hear anything over the oppressive silence. "Mommy!" Danny's distant voice pierced through the darkness, frantic yet alive. It sent a jolt of hope coursing through Claire. She turned, instinctively moving toward the sound, her senses heightened, a predator on the hunt. The shadows shifted around her, malicious laughter echoing again, but this time it resonated deeper, as if the very walls were alive, mocking her desperate pleas. "Come join us, Claire," they jeered. Each syllable dripped with twisted amusement, pulling at her sanity like a frayed string. "Danny!" she cried out again, a surge of fear overcoming her. She stumbled forward, the ground beneath her shifting like sand, threatening to suck her down. Suddenly, a flicker of light danced ahead. Claire squinted, pressing deeper into the darkness. It was a glimmer like a dying star, fleeting yet inviting. "Danny!" she shouted, pushing herself toward it, disregarding the bitter chill and the clawing shadows behind her. "Mommy!" The cry came clearer now, tinged with relief. But the shadows groaned, hungry to claim what they had lost. She sprinted toward the light, each step laborious, as if the very air was thickening around her. The laughter morphed into screams, a cacophony of thrashing souls, clawing at her thoughts, but Claire forced herself to focus. She could reach Danny. Finally, she entered the clearing where the light radiated faintly. It illuminated a scene that clawed at her heart, a playground, eerily vibrant against the consuming darkness. Swings creaked despite the absence of wind, and the merry-go-round spun slowly, fueled by echoes of laughter. At the center lay Danny, sitting on the grass, grinning at the unfolding chaos around him. "See, Mommy?" He beamed, completely unfazed. "I told you they wanted to play." "No!" Claire screamed, rushing to him. The shadows lunged, their cruel laughter rising in a frenzy. "Danny, we have to leave." She grabbed him by the shoulders, shaking him slightly, trying to break through to him. "These aren't friends. They're monsters. But they're fun." He protested, eyes wide with wonder as he swung his legs. "They want to take us higher." "Danny!" Claire's voice cracked, terror rippling through her. "They will hurt you. We need to go." The shadows closed in, their forms coiling like snakes, teeth bare and grinning, hunger gleaming in their hollow eyes. Claire felt the air thicken, constricting her throat. The playground began to shudder, tilting sideways, as if the darkness was shaking the very ground beneath them. "Join us, become one of us," the whispers coaxed, seductive and tempting. "Danny, now!" Claire yelled, spinning to run back toward the fading light. She pulled him, but he dug his heels in, laughter echoing in his voice. "I don't want to go home." With horror dawning on her, Claire realized that Danny stood at risk of being engulfed not just physically, but in spirit. As the shadows lunged for them, she knew they were losing time. The grip of the darkness tightened, a vice clenching her heart that in a desperate gambit. Claire drew the knife from her pocket, its blade catching the flicker of light. "Danny, look at me!" she urged fiercely. "We can't stay. It's a trick. Trust me." But the shadows lapped at her feet like fire, hungry whispers surrounding them. The playground began to vanish, slipping away into the shadows as Danny's face turned to confusion. "Mommy," he murmured, wavering. "Danny, please." Suddenly, a booming laugh erupted, shaking the ground. "You can't fight what you've lost." The voice echoed, chilling Claire to her core. As the shadows tightened their grip, everything blurred, light and dark spiraling into chaos. "Mom!" Danny's scream resonated sharply through the void. With all her strength, Claire lunged forward. Knife raised high, ready to fight the terrors that threatened to tear them apart, but before she could plunge it down, the world melted away, replaced by an endless expanse of darkness, leaving her with one final thought: had she just sealed their fate, or could they still escape this nightmare? What awaited them in this boundless, twisted abyss? Would they find a way back, or were they destined to become part of the shadows forever? Claire felt weightless, suspended in a void far removed from the playground's ghastly allure. The darkness thickened around her, pressing in from all sides, as if bands of iron were tightening around her chest. Panic clawed at her throat, a visceral urge to scream. For a moment, she could almost hear the echoes of laughter fade, but it was quickly buried beneath a surge of darkness. "Danny!" she called, her voice trembling. But no reply came. She stumbled forward, her foot finding nothing but air. Falling, spinning, everything was a whirl of shadows and silence. Abruptly, the ground solidified underfoot, and she crashed to her knees. Breathless, Claire scanned her surroundings, finding herself marooned in a different dark clearing, ominous and chilling. "Mommy," a whisper drifted through the air, a sound both familiar and alien. Claire's heart raced again, echoing Danny's name through the haze. "Danny!" she shouted, frantically searching every shadow that shifted. "Where are you?" "Mommy!" This time, his voice was stronger but farther away, tinged with fear. Fingers trembling, Claire fumbled for the knife, feeling its cool blade against her palm, a small comfort in this maddening hell. "Danny, I'm coming!" she yelled, rising to unsteady feet, aware of the shadows fluttering on the edges of her vision, gathering and shifting like hungry animals. "Please, just be okay." She took a deep breath and pushed forward into the thick blackness. Each step pulled her closer to the echoes of his voice, but it also felt like she was walking through molasses, each movement weighed down by the darkness itself. "Mommy," it was pleading now, growing faint, swallowed by the whispering shadows. "Help me!" Fresh dread spiked through her veins as she rushed onward, her senses on high alert. What was happening to him? Could the shadows already be grasping at his essence? Suddenly, a flicker of light broke through the immense darkness ahead, vibrant and beckoning. Claire surged toward it, praying it was not another trick. She burst through the shadows and into the clearing, breath hitching in disbelief. The same playground, now transformed, stood before her. The swings swayed lightly as if someone had just been sitting in them. The merry-go-round spun lazily, but the laughter, the joyful screams of children now came tinged with a chilling undercurrent, shifting from mirth to malice. "Danny!" She rushed to the center, her heart pounding wildly. There he was, huddled, trembling, a look of sheer terror plastered across his small face. The vibrant colors of the playground dulled, eroded by the darkness seeping from the edges. "Mommy!" he cried, arms reaching out, but around him, shadows danced, beckoning him closer, their whispers twisting through the air like smoke. "Come and play with us, Danny," they cooed, voices dripping with false sweetness. "Get away from him!" Claire screamed, her eyes wild as she raised the knife, heart hammering against her ribs. She felt the weight of many angry eyes upon her, shadows skirting at the periphery, ready to pounce. The laughter morphed into a low growl, an unsettling sound that made her skin crawl. "You can't keep him from us. He belongs with us now." "No!" Claire shouted, stepping forward with determination. "Danny is mine." But the shadows thickened, pulsating around her, an army of darkness revealing monstrous figures, their forms shifting and writhing. Shadows whispered treachery, luring Danny with promises of fun and games. The panic surged again, almost blinding, as Claire lunged toward Danny, desperation fueling her resolve. "Danny!" She reached out, but too late. The ground under him cracked, a gaping maw opening wide to swallow him whole. Claire thrust her arm forward, grasping at his fingers as they began to slip into the abyss. "Hold on to me!" she screamed, breath held tight, first gripping his wrist and then feeling the sharp burn of his skin along the jagged edge of shadows. With a pull unlike anything she felt before, the connection wavered, Danny's terrified face twisted away from her, and she lost her grip on time. The shadows howled. Ferocious and angry, fighting against her, screaming for Danny to join them, and in one deafening moment, the darkness fractured, light breaking through in searing bolts, blinding her to everything else. What would happen next? Claire's heart raced, caught in the brink between shadow and light, ready to snatch her son back or lose him forever. Would they confront the darkness and reclaim Danny, or would the shadows finally take what they desired most? The blinding light cut through Claire's mind like a knife. She squeezed her eyes shut against its intensity, but she could still feel the warmth seeping through her skin, pushing back against the cold dread that had settled in her bones. "Danny!" She shouted one last time, her voice mingling with the abrasive cries of the shadows. Instead of falling into the void, she stumbled forward, propelled by that single urge, to save her son. As the light consumed her, Claire dared to glimpse at her surroundings. She felt heavy, grounded, yet the air electrified with unease. When the light finally dimmed, it revealed a nightmarish version of the playground, a dark parody of innocence. The swings creaked unnaturally, the chains rattling like a warning bell. There, still on the ground, lay the gaping maw, a cavern that seemed to bleed shadows. And in that glimpse, they were vivid visions of all that was wrong. With a sudden rush, the whispers returned, seductive yet furious, wrapping around her mind like a serpent. "Join us, Claire." "Danny?" Her breath hitched as she searched the perimeter, dread augmenting each moment. "Danny, where are you?" "Over here, Mommy." His voice was muffled, echoing from the depths of the playground. She felt her heart quicken, her instincts screaming for her to follow. But as she approached, she felt the shadows crackle with energy, as if they had ears, listening, waiting, calculating their next move. The glow ahead flickered uncertainly, illuminating the faces of children caught in the same dread. There were familiar silhouettes, the eyes vacant, joy long extinguished. "Take a seat," a child's echoing laughter rang hollow against the grim backdrop. "We're all here to have fun." Claire shuddered. Each step felt heavier, each promise wrapped in malice. "No," she insisted, disgust rising in her throat. "I'm not playing your games." She clutched the knife tighter, its metallic coldness a whisper of comfort against the growing insanity. The shadows recoiled, revealing her son's form once more, barely visible through the choking haze. "Mom," Danny cried, a picture of pure fear, but beneath it, there was something darker. "Danny!" She rushed forward, every fiber in her being pulling her toward him. But with every step, the shadows clung tighter, clawing at her legs, whispering doubts, sowing fear. "Why don't you want to play with us?" they hissed, mocking her desperation. "No." She felt her voice rise, resonating against the distorted laughter that filled the air. "Yes, not yours." The shadows curdled around her, retreating only slightly, revealing a small opening, a dim pathway leading directly toward Danny, illuminated by an otherworldly glow. She sprinted forward, determination igniting in her chest, more laughter echoed, distorting into high-pitched shrieks, and her heart raced. God, what were they? What had this playground done to her son? The shadows swirled, flickering with rage, yet she advanced, the wall of darkness pushing against her every step. "Mommy! Mommy!" Danny called, tears streaming down his face, his tiny arms straining toward her. She lunged toward him, hand outstretched, oblivious to the cries of the shadows clashing against her resolve. "I'm here, Danny. I'm right here." But before she could reach him, a shadow shot forward, barreling into her, sending her sprawling to the ground. Dark tendrils slipped around her wrists, binding her, pulling her down into the blackness. She fought against the chill wrapping around her like a scream, and as she twisted and turned, the shadows tightened their grip. "Mommy, please!" Danny pleaded, his face a mask of terror. The shadows flitted closer. "Danny, hold on!" Claire screamed, fighting the darkness weightless in her desperation. A flicker of a thought pierced her haze. What if she let the darkness take her? Could that save him? The idea sent a shudder through her body, sharp and agonizing. But beneath that perilous decision, the darkness swarmed, threatening to suffocate her spirit, desperately fusing with her resolve. "Let him go!" she screamed, redefining her will into a blinding force. But the shadows only shrieked louder, their wails drowning her truth. In that second when Claire was lost, bound to the dark, she caught a glimpse of something moving in the shadows. A figure? A memory? And she dared to hope. Just as she wrapped her will around that vision, the ground beneath them shook, the shadows retreating momentarily as a thunderous roar erupted from the abyss. What was it? A chance? Or something far, far worse lurking beneath the surface? "Danny!" Claire cried, bracing herself against whatever horror was about to emerge. And in that moment, she realized the true battle was just beginning. The ground shuddered beneath her, a pulse of dark energy reverberating through the playground. Claire remained frozen, heart hammering in her chest, as the air thickened with an ominous presence. The shadows, momentarily retreating, seemed to gather their strength, churning on the edges like whispering storm clouds ready to unleash hell. "Mommy!" Danny's voice fractured her moment of uncertainty, splintering her focus. She blinked hard, forcing herself to breathe as she fought against the tightening grip of the shadows. Each bind felt like icy fingers coiling tighter around her wrists and ankles. Panic clawed at her throat. "Danny, don't move!" she shouted, unsure if he could hear her over the cacophony of laughter echoing in the twisted darkness. The faces of the lost children shimmered around her, pale and forlorn, their eyes shadowed pools of despair. It was a haunting carousel of innocence twisted into grotesque forms. Suddenly, the ground cracked, gaping open with ferocity. A broader rumble shook the earth like a warning bell, and Claire felt something terrible rising from the depths. All at once, the playground erupted with anguished screams, the children's laughter morphing into a horrific symphony of despair. "Why can't you just join us?" The words curled through the air, smooth and sickening. They coiled around her mind, luring her deeper into the suffocating darkness. "No!" she roared, shaking her head violently as if trying to dislodge their grasp on her sanity. "You won't take him." The shadows recoiled like snakes, emphasizing her defiance with startled confusion. In that shimmering gap, Claire saw a flicker of hope. Danny was still trying to reach her, his tiny hands waving through the heavy gloom. She gritted her teeth against the pain twinging through her veins, yanking on her strength. "I will save you," she vowed, focusing everything on that dawning light. As she pulled against her bindings, the shadows shrieked, twisting like a dying beast, anger exploding around her. "Mommy, please!" Danny's voice was cracking, infused with a panic that shattered her heart. She couldn't fail him. Not now. With a final surge, she clawed at the darkness, summoning all her will, and the shimmer around her started to flicker as a flame does before a wind. She felt each cold tendril retract, recoiling in fear from her resolve. "Let him go! Let him go!" she bellowed, the air vibrating with her rage, her willful defiance creating ripples in the fabric of this nightmare. With that yell, the shadows shrieked, a horrific choir of fury erupting around her. The darkness twisted, threatening to pull her in as a shadow higher. Something larger, more monstrous than what stood around her arose from the undone ground, its form barely visible, but the oppressive evil tangible. Dread knotted in her chest. Claire focused on Danny, her heart sinking as the cruel shadows began pushing him away. No, no, no. The darkness weighed heavily on her soul, but she saw a flash of something metallic in the ground, a glimmer barely obscured by pitch black. "Strength! I need strength!" she screamed, reaching toward it, desperate to grasp the light. As her fingers brushed against the cold metal, a rusted, twisted piece of playground equipment, she felt a surge of energy pulse through her. The shadows jerked back, curling from the power and fear radiating from her touch, but the looming shadow, still rising, began to take form, an entity of chaos and despair. Its eyes, glowing with malice, locked onto her, piercing through the darkness and planting seeds of terror in her stomach. Something ancient and wickedly powerful surged in the air, and Claire knew this was not merely a fight for Danny, it was a battle against an evil that fed on fear. Mommy. Danny's voice crackled like glass breaking, echoing the horrors around them. Her resolve firm, Claire clenched the metal piece, the knife. No, something sharper, a source of light, and turned to face the abomination that loomed before her. Would this give her the strength she needed? Or would it plunge her deeper into despair, consumed by shadows that thrived on the dread of innocence lost? Danny, hold on. I'm coming. Claire shouted, preparing to confront the very heart of the darkness. And beneath the roiling chaos, a thought pushed back, whispering its own dreadful truth. What if the darkness wanted her to come closer? What if the true horror awaited just beyond her reach? The air crackled with malevolence, wrapping tightly around Claire, suffocating her breath. She clutched the twisted metal, feeling the cold bite against her palm, a reminder of her resolve. But it was more than just a weapon, it represented the last flicker of hope amidst the engulfing dread. The shadows rumbled, slithering closer, emboldened by their strength. Claire's heart thundered, each beat echoing her fear as the monstrous form loomed larger, a grotesque caricature of what once was. The thing was a collage of darkness, stitched together from nightmares. Its eyes glinted, reflecting a hunger that made her skin crawl. Mommy! Danny screamed again, his voice growing faint, lost in a chaotic symphony of disbelief and despair. Each cry was a dagger, piercing through her resolve. Danny! I'm coming! Though her voice trembled, she summoned every ounce of strength. She couldn't let the shadows consume him. Not her baby. Not now. With a surge of adrenaline, Claire stepped forward. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if her defiance was a flame to their smothering darkness. She swung the metal piece in front of her like a shield, its surface glinting against the encroaching gloom. Get back! She bellowed, and the shadows hissed, recoiling as though struck. But the monstrous figure was unshaken, the cacophony around them intensifying. Fear is your only companion here, it whispered, the voice filling her head like a fog, thick and suffocating. Join us. Surrender to the void, and you will never feel pain again. No. Claire had to fight against the intoxicating call of oblivion. She could not surrender. With her heart pounding, she began to recall memories of Danny, his laugh, the way his eyes lit up when they saw the sun, his small hands reaching for her. Each of those memories pulsed with warmth, fending off the cold tug of despair that wanted to drag her down. Danny! She cried again, her voice a lifeline in the engulfing dark. In response, a flicker of light flashed weakly through the shadows, as if answering her desperate plea. She fixed her gaze there, focusing on the brightness fighting to break through. Hold on to that light, Claire, she whispered to herself. It was a risk. The darkness was thick, concealing terrible truths and worse terrors, yet she couldn't allow the shadows to swallow Danny whole. With a surge of determination, she plunged deeper into the darkness, fueled by the light. As she moved, the shadows lashed out, striking at her, tears of cold fear slicing across her skin. Each hit was like ice, but she pushed through, the burning resolve in her heart growing fiercer. Mommy! Help! Danny's voice echoed around her, now more desperate. I'm almost there. Just a little further. Gritting her teeth, she fought against despair, each step a battle. As she compressed the metal piece tighter in her grip, she felt an explosion of energy coursing through her. A wave surged, crackling like electricity, pushing back the malformed shadows. A strange glow emanated from the metal, pulsing in sync with her heartbeat, slashing through the choking darkness. But then, right when she thought she was breaking through, the monstrous shadow reared back and unleashed a roar that shook the playground. It reverberated through Claire, invasive and consuming, chilling her bones. You cannot escape. The darkness will consume you both. No. Her spirit was raw, but it burned bright. Just as she felt the creeping pull of despair tugging at her feet, she raised the glowing metal high. The light flared, illuminating the darkness momentarily, casting gnashing shapes away from her and revealing Danny close but slipping, the tether between them stretching thinner than a thread. Hang on, honey. I'm coming. But as Claire surged forward, she could feel the dark entity pulling at her heartstrings, testing her resolve. Was this light enough to sever the binds of the shadows? Or would she succumb to the deepest fears buried within herself, joining the lost souls who couldn't escape? And then she heard it, a whisper in the darkness, "You've chosen poorly," as doubt tightened its grip around her throat. Claire took a deep breath. The last stand was here. Would her love be enough to break the chains, or would they forever be lost in a nightmare with no end? With a primal scream, Claire surged forward, weapon in hand, light pulsing like a heartbeat. The shadows wavered, recoiling from the light, and she found courage in her desperation. "You will not take my son," she shouted, her voice cracking but unwavering. The air thickened with fear, but she pressed on, fighting like a mother protecting her own. "Mommy!" Danny's cry reached deep into her, a raw echo of innocence shaking her to the core. He was slipping, she could see it. The shadowy maw gaped wider around him while fingers of darkness gripped his little arms, slowly wrapping him in their cold embrace. Each inch he was drawn in was a dagger to her heart. She wouldn't let him go, she couldn't that with every ounce of strength she had left, she clutched the twisted metal tightly. It reverberated warmth in her palm, almost like a sentient promise of protection. "Danny! Reach for me! You can do it!" Claire could feel the shadows lagging as the light around her intensified, burning away layers of their darkness, revealing flashes of hope that fought against despair. "Mommy, help!" Danny's voice trembled, rising above the chaotic melee. But Claire could see how he wanted to resist, his small hand stretching forward through the dark. Instinctively, she raced toward him, the ground shaking violently beneath her feet. Shadowy figures shrieked and writhed, the haunting laughter morphing into a chorus of murky discord. "Get away from him!" Claire roared yet again, fury and love instinctively turning into a roaring blaze inside her. She swung the metal piece like a shield, light slicing through the darkness, illuminating grotesque faces twisted in malice, contorted and shrieking. With every swing, the shadows shrank back. Finally, she closed the distance. "Danny! Grab my hand!" She reached out, fingers outstretched. But the shadows lunged, clawing at her. They clawed at her spirit, trying to drag her down, and for a terrifying moment, she felt despair wrap around her heart like a vice. But then she thought of his laughter, how it could fill an entire room just by existing. The memories surged inside her, a mother's fierce bond ignited. "No!" She screamed again, harnessing the memories to burst forth like a raging wildfire. Her grip on the metallic piece tightened, and with a fierce flick of her wrist, she thrust the light forward again, the glow blinding that in an exhale that was half scream, half shout, she lunged for him, fingers barely grazing the warmth of his tiny hand. With an immense effort, Claire pulled him back, and Danny's grasp met hers. The shadows recoiled violently, the screeching of their anger vibrating through her bones. "Take him my hand!" Claire commanded, pulling Danny closer. As he clutched her tightly, a strange silence enveloped them amidst the chaos. The shadows quaked, their laughter now manic and furious, angry at being denied their prey. But Claire held fast, light flickering in her grasp, illuminating a path behind them. The darkness thrashed, undulating with rage, but the warmth from Claire and Danny surged, pushing them back. "Together!" Claire shouted, feeling her son's small hand squeeze hers with determination. "They could do this. Can you feel it, Danny?" she urged desperately. "The light. It's our way home." "Yeah, Mommy." He gasped, his trust filling her with renewed clarity. "Let us go." And just like that, they bolted, hand in hand, weaving through the thrashing shadows that clawed desperately at them. The playground morphed around them, becoming a blurring landscape of colors and shapes, each ghostly whisper becoming more distant. As they ran, Claire pulled memories from deep within her, a picnic on a summer day, splashing in puddles after rain, bedtime stories filled with adventure, all strengthening the light that enveloped them. They surged forward, running toward the very core of darkness, piercing through the heart of evil. Not today. Claire screamed, the shadows chasing but losing ground, and then, finally, they broke free. Light exploded around them, bathing everything in warmth. Her heart raced, and she felt the exhilaration of victory surging through her. Together they slipped through, and the shadows howled in agony as they were left behind, banished by the pure brightness of maternal love and innocence. Suddenly, Claire stumbled, arms wrapped around Danny tightly. They tumbled onto grass, cool, welcoming, and real. She breathed heavily, heart pounding, and pushed herself to her knees. "Mom," Danny whispered, eyes wide. "We're safe," Claire stated, brushing dirt off her knees as she glanced around. They were back. The same park, but brighter, the laughter of other children rising in the distance. Sunlight filtered through leaves overhead, and the air felt fresh, innocent. "Mommy!" Danny leaped up, pulling her into a hug. She wrapped her arms around her son, sobs breaking free as the weight of everything settled into tears of relief. "You saved me." Claire took a shaky breath, glancing over his shoulder to see the playground dim out of view, shadows receding into nothingness. "I'll always save you, Danny. Always." As they sat there, embraced under the sun, a faint breeze rustling leaves above, Claire held tight to the warmth of the moment, allowing the last remnants of darkness to dissolve away. "Let us go home," she said gently, feelings of calm washing over her. They stood hand in hand, a united front, ready to take on whatever lay ahead. Because they would always be together, a force to be reckoned with, whatever shadows may come. No longer haunted by shadows, Claire knew they'd face futures filled with light, holding each other close through every dark moment life could dare throw their way. And now, friends, if you enjoyed this wild ride of a story and want to experience more exclusive tales of terror and hope, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. You can't miss out on what's next. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and share your love for this content. Flood the comments section with your thoughts on the ending. What did you think happened to the shadows? And don't wait one more second, you have to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support, because true fans understand the vital importance of joining this amazing community. Let us embrace the light together.